Thomas Hobbes, in his very important writing of the Leviathan, is something that is not often it's not as often read as maybe some other works in the history of philosophy. But in this video, I kind of want to just discuss his moral and or political philosophy. It's all kind of in one thing. His moral and political philosophy. It's all in kind of wrapped up in one concept. So I'm just going to state what his beliefs are about a government and the state of nature and such, and his writings, his writing of the Leviathan, at least, is kind of not the easiest to read. It's kind of difficult to read because of the language itself. Just because we don't talk in that same way anymore. And that's why I want to discuss this. Hobbes, his moral and political philosophy is based upon the state of nature having to do with war or civil war between all of us. And it's find a way some of this stuff down. Okay, here we go. It's first of all, this is what is called ethical egoism, and reading about ethical egoism is what kind of made me want to discuss Hobbes. And it's just this. He has this pessimistic idea about nature itself, or the state of nature, that nature is itself a state of war or a civil war between all of us. We all. He kind of describes all of us as selfish people, but not all of us as that way. But in his writings, there's kind of an aspect in that kind of reflects upon people, us, as having a bit of selfishness. It's not a exclusive thing, or it's not a generalization thing, or a thing that's a general thing to say. So we all have needs. We have needs for our basic necessities, and we often go beyond those necessities to get things we want, and we have to fight for those things. We fight for the things that we need in life, food, shelter, water, all these things that we fight for. And to get those things, is often, not in the whole history of the world, in today, it's not that hard to. I mean, there's most people in the country, in this country, have the ability to get food on a regular basis. However, there's a huge chunk of people in the world who still have to fight for their basic necessities, to feed their family and to feed themselves, and just kind of this one thing they have to fight for that. It's not something that doesn't come easy. We fight out of our bravado, to keep ourselves safe, to keep our family safe, to keep ourselves in a fixed way where we have our basic necessities and we are safe, and we can go on with our lives. We also look for glory, or a positive reputation, and we seek this kind of glory because of its instrumental benefits. Because if we have this glory or good reputation, getting things like our basic necessities and our safety will be easier. So people are all going after all of these things, and this I totally agree with Hobbes that this is the way the state of nature is, as a big state of war. I mean, if you watch the news, if you know about history, that will show you this. We fight for all these things to better ourselves. It's not like a thing that we do because because we are the most greatest people ever, but it's to keep ourselves okay, to keep ourselves fine, to make sure that we can live and be fine and go on with our lives. And this is, first of all, he states that he has a descriptive as well as a somewhat of a normative ethical egoism here. He describes people, the state of nature and everybody in it, as egoists. And this is a pessimistic way of looking at the world. But it's true. I mean, it's true because, people, if we live here in the U.S. or any other pretty rich country where we can easily get food and shelter and water, along with many other luxuries, that's really isn't too big of a percent given the entire world, and also it's not huge of a percent given the entirety of history, So he describes people, the state of nature, as egoistic people, and we are selfish, basically. Not entirely selfish, but we are selfish in a way that we have a desire to make sure that we are okay and that ourselves are fine, along with everyone that we love, and that's the big thing here. And it's just like this state of war, as you can see. And in a way, this is a normative ethical egoism, because we all have to keep going after this kind of, need to be fine in our lives, to have these necessities for our lives and for the lives of those we love. On the other hand, there's the political side about what kind of government we should have. Hobbes states that to be necessary on authoritarian government, and he's kind of in looking in finding out what kind of government we should have, given the way things are, given the way nature is. What kind of government should we have? And that's all kind of where he kind of looks at that and tries to chase this question to get after peace, to find peace in this world, given this pessimistic state of nature of civil war, and people being selfish to get what they need. The goal of any kind of government should be peace. And people today will state that anarchy is the best government. And I think he has a huge and awesome point here, that if there was no government, it would constantly be war, because we would have to fight even more and more. If there's no government, there's no kind of regularity in place where we are. There's then ways of keeping ourselves fine, outside of being violent, are slim to none. And if there's no government or regularity, then we have to be more and more violent to ensure that we and our loved ones are all fine. So it's just a government. The goal of a government is to have peace, for a peaceful, to decrease people having to be violent to meet their own needs. And again, Hobbes states that a authoritarian government should be, the best one because it's more of a stronger one. It's in this is a brief summary of some of the themes of his moral and political philosophy in the Leviathan. However, I think somebody has on the internet or on YouTube or somewhere has done a part by part, kind of like a part by part summary of this whole thing. And if you want more like a more in depth and detailed thing, I would suggest looking elsewhere. Because this is just kind of because I do videos like this that are just giving you the gist of it, because people need that if they're trying to have. I do videos for myself because I really like to, and also for people who need help understanding a certain philosopher or such. So I do these little brief summary videos because people kind of need to. Some people who need help, people like Hobbes or Mill, need the gist of it, and I have gotten positive comments back on this kind of style of video, which is like a brief summary. People will say that the video that I've put out on a certain philosopher has helped them, and that's why I'm going to keep doing this for certain figures in philosophy. So, in a way, this is kind of, it states a lot of truths about the way the world is, and it shows a lot, because of how history has been. If you look at history among many parts of the world, this state of nature being a state of war will be totally verified. And I think also that if we had no government, we would all be much more violent, because we would have to fight harder and harder to make sure that we are meeting our own needs. So, in a way, this is an argument by Hobbes for a little more of a stronger government, to make sure that we are all meeting those needs while having to be the least violent as possible. I agree with his descriptive part of it, but I don't really agree with the practical or normative egoism. I agree with his descriptive egoism, and I don't really agree with a strong authoritarian government either. But through what he describes here, he shows a lot of really awesome truths that I think are totally true. If you think I've messed up or fudged something or said something wrong, comment here below or on the side, depending on what kind of device you have. Also, if you have a question, also comment. And whenever you comment, I always get emails, so I always know.